Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy Crosby. I am the manager of Fact TV in Fitchburg. That's Fitchburg Access Community Television. I'm here with Mary Cardona. She's the executive director of Wisconsin Community Media. We are a member as well. And Mary, we want to talk about WCM's mission, but really there's a lot of changes happening behind the scenes that folks don't know about. And our goal is outreach, of course, to reach the citizens across the state to let them know that PEG stations have been suffering for a long time. That's public education government. And things are even going to be tighter as things move on. But first, Mary, if you could just describe for people who aren't aware of what Wisconsin Community Media is,
Sure.
What's the mission?
Sure. Wisconsin Community Media was founded about 20 years ago because we have many public and government and education access stations in the state. These are channels that are on cable systems, and they're very local. And when they first started, everybody started doing their own thing and handling it in their own way. And by and large, we had a lot in common. So a few of the PEG Access television managers decided that it was time to work together. And so they formed an organization called WAPC, which is now Wisconsin Community Media. And basically, it's an organization or an association of public education and government access television channels, and all these channels do is serve their local communities.
Yeah, and it's an important thing. I mean, that it's super important to be able to get information out about what's happening in your city. That's one of our goals here.
Right. Without these PEG stations, there would be no local coverage on cable. I mean, basically, cable does have the broadcast affiliates like CBS, NBC, and ABC, but as we know, those are, short newscasts in the evening or in the morning. And a lot of times those broadcasters don't actually cover the smaller communities outside of their, big broadcast contours. So public education and government access television fills those gaps, and 24/7 we're covering local.
And and it can be local from a city organization. It can be a nonprofit. It can be in the schools.
Right.
They're spread out across the state, bringing you your local, whatever local means to your community.
We actually have 50 members, but there are probably well over 100 channels that exist statewide.
That's incredible. And we've got 3 of them right here in
Yeah.
Fitchburg. Oh, yeah. Mary, let's talk about what the concern is, what WCM has been working on for a long time. After 2007, things changed drastically for
Right.
cable,
So-
or for local PEG stations.
Right. So most of you may still, or most of our viewers might still think that cable television is regulated on the local level, but that actually changed in 2007. And in Wisconsin, we have what's called a state franchise statute. And that means that the state is the one who sets the guidelines for how cable companies are managed or are regulated. And cable companies don't have any rate regulation. But what the state does do is it requires them to respect the number of public education and government access channels that were in a town in 2007. So they have to provide those channels. But other than that, there isn't much cable companies have to do on the local level anymore. And we lost a lot in 2007 when that statute went through, or when that law went through. So what we're trying to do is claw back some of what we lost this session, because we've found over the last 12 years that it just doesn't work.
Absolutely, and when we're talking about working, we're talking about cable channels are in the 900s in some cases. They're not in HD. They're things that go hand in hand with regular TV, if you will, but they don't have to provide it.
Right. I mean, cable operators would be happy if PEG channels went away tomorrow. I mean, I've been doing this for decades, and unfortunately, it's just true. They're not really interested in providing these channels. So what they've done is they've battled against cities for many, many years, trying to resist providing any services for these channels. Like, for example, virtually every single one of our members, our 50 members, produce programs in HD. However, the cable company dumbs down our signal to SD, which has far poorer resolution, so that it doesn't look good to our viewers, and it's discouraging for people to watch. So that's one of our big issues, that we really feel that it's time for us to enter the 21st century and be aired in HD like all the other channels on the cable systems are aired. The other thing that they do is that they don't put our program schedules on the electronic program guide. So we have 9 channels right now that have their program schedules on the guide statewide. And we beg and cajole and, but they don't do it. And again, it's another way that it keeps our channels sort of hidden, because not only are they in the 980s and the 990s where, who's going to find them, but they don't identify our channels with their names on the electronic program guide. They might say Fitchburg 1, but not say that it's a city channel. They don't put our program schedule on it, so people can't find out what's on our channels. And then if that's the case, people can't record the programs either. So if you're interested in a city council meeting that's on at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night, you have to be there at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. Who does that anymore? I mean, it's so antiquated. So those are 2 big problems that we see with the way we're being handled right now that really needs to be fixed.
Absolutely, and we are affected directly here in the city of Fitchburg by everything you had just mentioned. We shoot everything in HD. It's down converted to SD for all 3 of our cable providers here in the city. And the last big piece of this is the funding component.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't understand what our franchise fees, how they're collected, how they're distributed. It's super important for PEG stations to stay in operation if they are not on the tax roll, if you will.
Right.
But what is it, and where is it going?
So there's something called a franchise fee that all cable subscribers pay, and it essentially the cable company pays it. So in Wisconsin, this fee is called a video service provider fee, and it goes into the general fund of the municipality, and it's assessed for the use of the right-of-way. So a cable company uses streets and easements, and they make a profit. They're an unregulated company in that sense. They can charge whatever they want to, and what the city asks is that they pay a fee for the use of those rights-of-way where they're making a profit. It's sort of like a rent. And so that's typically 5%, sometimes it's 3% that's assessed by a municipality, and that goes into the general fund, and then cities turn around and give that to community television stations to fund their production and distribution efforts. So it's a really, really important source of revenue for us. Another source of revenue that we did have prior to the law that was passed in 2007 was called a PEG fee, and that is something that we are striving to get back also. It's a very, very small fee. It's usually about 25 cents per subscriber per month, but what it does is enables these centers to purchase equipment that's badly needed. So we're hoping to get that back.
Yeah, it's crucial because also part of the 2007 law, as I understand it, is the franchise fee that was going into the general fund, could be used for anything. So
That's
it used
right.
to be that it was just under that it would have to go to the local television station. That is not the case. The city village, whatever, is collecting those fees, can distribute it any way they want to. So if they want to invest in the community television, they can. If they can't or don't want to, they don't have to, and
Right.
that can hurt and has hurt where stations closed up ultimately, or what have you. Finally, here to close this out, it's this last session, and just quickly as far as what could happen in the future. If you're okay talking about that.
I'm
With
waiting for the question.
As far as what went to the governor and the governor's desk here, as far as the future goes, or something that's in the current budget That's
Okay, well, if you want to go there.
I do want to go there, Mary. I think it's important.
All right. Well, as we were talking about earlier, there are these video service provider fees that we collect from cable companies. The cable industry has asked for those fees to be reduced in this session. But because municipalities rely on those fees so heavily, not only to fund community television stations, but as you were saying, they may also rely on them for a lot of other purposes. What they've done is they've decided to subsidize the loss to municipalities by having taxpayers pay the amount of money that a cable company would otherwise pay. So in 2020, it would be a $6 million loss to municipalities, and therefore taxpayers would pay $6 million. In 2021, it would be a $12 million loss to taxpayers because it goes up. It's a stepped-up reduction in franchise fees or in video service provider fees. Then taxpayers would pay $12 million to municipalities. So, I mean, the problem is here that not all taxpayers subscribe to cable television, so why should general taxpayers pay this? We have another problem with why should we give this break to cable companies? I mean, why do they need this subsidy? I mean, are they not doing well? I think they're doing quite well. Charter is one of the 2 largest cable companies in the whole country. They're doing just fine. They not only have cable, they have telephone income, and they have broadband income. The other thing is, it's bad for PEG. It's bad for our public education, government access television channels because that means less funding for us. It's bad for municipalities because after this 10-year period, they're going to have less revenue from cable companies. So the only entity that's benefiting from this is the cable companies, and we're not quite sure why they need this assistance on the part of the state. And frankly, Wisconsin would be the first state to reduce video service provider fees.
Yeah, so what we're asking you, or you, the viewers out there across the state, is get involved with your PEG station, support them, let your legislator know that if you like what you're watching, you like what you're seeing, and you want to keep it, you got to reach out to them and let them know how you feel about this. And let your stations know too, because we all want to know, and we want to stay in business essentially, and keep providing local access.
Yes, and if you want to help and you want more concrete information, we do have a page on our website that talks about this issue. So if you go to our website, and I don't know that, maybe you can put it on later, but our website is just go to wisconsincommunitymedia.com and you'll find us. And there's an advocacy spot and then state legislation, and that page has all of the information you would need if you wanted to help us out.
Absolutely, and get on there, and WCM too. It allows you to actually find your stations across the state, so you can learn a little bit more about what's going on with the stations and how all this works. Mary, thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome.
Do your part. Reach out to your stations. Reach out to your legislators, and help us out if you can.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.